Thank you, Rob, and thanks, folks, for coming today for this session. I'm Fred Wagner. I'm emeritus in the faculty at Utah State University, where I was Associate Dean of the College of Natural Resources and Director of the 7-Department Ecology Center there. And my specialty is ecology. Now, each plant and animal species in nature has adapted physiologically through centuries of evolution to exist in a given range of temperatures. As temperatures change, some species adjust, others drop out, some will go extinct. Each species responds individually. Research all over the world is showing three kinds of single species responses. One is poleward and upslope shifts in distribution. And you may have read just in recent months in the Salt Lake newspapers that a large fraction of the migratory birds here in the West are wintering farther north. But now let me show you an example that's also taking place here in our own state. Western streams have temperature gradients from warmer temperatures in the lower elevations to higher temperatures in the upper elevations. And the aquatic plants and animals that exist in the stream sort themselves out according to their their temperature preferenda along these gradients. Now, what is happening is that as warming is occurring, that temperature gradient is moving upslope. And so there is some expectation and even observation that the organisms that have been positioned in certain spots in the stream will move up to continue occupying their preferenda. But the species that are caught in a squeeze of the species at the top of the streams, that is, those that can't go any higher than the headwaters of the stream. And here's one of our streams, and here's one of those species that's caught in the squeeze. This is the Utah cutthroat trout that is a cold water species, occupies the higher elevations and can't go any higher than the headwaters of the streams. And there are now concerns even for the survival in a number of mountain ranges for the survival of this species. Now, other single species changes are changes in the seasonal advances in the seasonal timing of life history events, such as blooming of plants, nesting of birds, emergence of insects. And then thirdly, changes in the population densities of individual species. Now, each species is enmeshed in a complex of interactions with other species that collectively form a natural community or ecosystem. As a species responds to temperature change in one of those three ways that I've just told you, its interactions with others change, and in the process, it alters the structure of ecosystems. A goal of ecology is to observe and measure changes in whole ecosystems. While this complex goal has not yet been reached in the time we've been giving attention to climate change, the science is observing changes in interrelated groups of species that are parts of ecosystems. And here's an example of what's happening in the West. The colored trees that you see on that mountain are trees that have been killed by a mountain pine beetle. This is a mountain near Yellowstone Park. Historically, the pine beetles have been limited to about 9,000 feet elevation by the cold temperatures at the higher levels because they can't experience their beetle outbreaks. But what's happening in recent years is that, in fact, now with warming, these beetle outbreaks are now moving up to higher elevations and besetting different species of pines at the higher elevations that haven't historically co-evolved with the pine beetle. And the other part of that is that the pine beetle outbreaks historically have not extended farther north than the U.S.-Canadian border. But now what you're seeing is the extension northward into southern British Columbia by pine beetle outbreaks because of the warming temperatures. Okay, so how does all this affect humans? Humans are beneficiaries of numerous ecosystem services, such as those that you see here. Many of these are being altered or diminished by climate change. And so just let me give you one example. The weather records now for the West show that the mountain snowpacks that we all know about are shrinking, literally all over the West. And what that is doing is lengthening the fire vulnerability season of forests. And so forest fires are now becoming more frequent and more extensive. In fact, in 2004 and 2005, a quarter of the forest land in the northeast quadrant of Alaska burned off. Now, forest fires magnify the global warming problem. Forests are carbon sinks. The leaves each year remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and form it into woody tissues that store the carbon for decades and centuries. Fires release the carbon in the wood and eliminate the leafy tissue that extracts it from the air each year. So the conclusion is ecosystems, whether terrestrial, freshwater, or marine, are being altered worldwide. Some authors are predicting extinctions of as many as a third of the world's species. In the process, the services we depend on from nature are being changed or eliminated. Now let's talk briefly about the impacts on world agriculture and water resources. Human food consumption in the world exceeded world agricultural production in the last 2 years. So the world population actually dipped into food reserves. Now the world population is predicted to increase from the current 6.7 billion to 9.5 billion by 2050. And by the way, please note that it's 2050, not 2150, as I mistakenly put in this one of these documents that are being distributed. So food demand will increase by roughly 50% by the middle of this century. Climate change is reducing agricultural production in dry areas of the world by reducing water for crops in several ways. One is shifting climate zone. There is astride the subtropical zones of the Earth, both in the northern and southern hemisphere, an area called the Hadley cell, which is basically a semi-arid region across both hemispheres of our Earth. And you can see here that what is happening with the Hadley cells is the climatologists are predicting, and there's evidence for this, that the Hadley cells are expanding poleward, both north and south, and are also becoming drier. Precipitation is declining. So the map that you see here is in yellow and brown is that area that is predicted to become even more arid than it already is. Oh, map, sorry. So the yellow and brown area is that zone that is predicted to become more arid, and there's already a bit of evidence that that's taking place. The area in blue is that portion of the northern hemisphere that is expected to get more precipitation. So the semi-tropical zones, which have been sustaining low productivity agriculture, are spreading poleward and becoming more arid. This is occurring in the Sahelian countries of sub-Saharan Africa, probably caused the Australian drought and fires of 2008, and quite possibly the Southern California drought that we've been reading about for some years. People who previously farmed the land in the Sahelian countries are now streaming to the cities, and human starvation and death of livestock are currently being reported for northern Kenya. Okay, and another way things are drying is that in this subtropical zone with the reduction of agriculture, there's less water for irrigation. And here's our own Lake Powell, and you can see the bathtub ring there in white on the hills where to which the lake previously rose. The third method of drying is that water resources are declining in areas where millions of people depend on streams fed by meltwater from glaciers, as in India and the Himalayan glaciers, and South America and the Andean glaciers. And here's what's happening in our own country. Glacier National Park, which was established in the early part of last century. 2/3 of the area covered by glaciers at the time of park establishment have now been relieved of glaciers. And here's just one, the Boulder Glacier as it appeared in 1932 and as it appeared in 1988. So we're losing our own glaciers as well as other parts of the globe. So agricultural production is declining in extensive parts of the world at a time when world food demand is increasing.